Hey everybody, this is James Frazier with Walker Stalker Con and the Walker Stalkers Podcast. You're listening to Dave and Creech.
Many of the terms, comments, and stories you're about to hear may not be suitable for some. Listener discretion advised.
I'll give you a good reason why my house is not complete. I have a professional wrestler and a gangster rapper building my house.
All right now, boys and girls, we want to introduce...
Mom says when I wear this badge, you're supposed to treat me like a man of the law. Dave Sheridan.
I did poop my pants a little bit on purpose. I wanted to.
Oh, so. You did it.
CJ Creech.
I actually got on Facebook a friend request from a member of ISIS this past week, which was really freaking weird.
Have you seen your beard lately?
The Dave and Creech Show.
Now here's your hosts, Dave and Creech.
How's it going, everybody? This is the Dave and Creech Show. This is episode 72. This is actually the first episode I am recording live. So there's probably going to be a lot of trial and error on this. As you can see, it's just a blank screen right now. Well, not really blank, but it has the Dave and Creech Show logo with a special live on it to let you know that you were indeed watching live. And, I've already been dealing with technical issues all day. Originally, this was actually going to be on camera, so you could stare at my ugly mug and watch me talk, because we've done the video podcast before, but those were all pre-recorded. And it's not pre-recorded now, it's actually live, but having some camera issues. So that caused a delay of the show to be delayed by an hour. And also, it's just been kind of a pain dealing with, to be honest. But it's all fun and good. We are live, and I'll be chatting with whoever is watching. I see Debbie and Ashley and Joseph are currently watching. So we're live, and I'm really want to talk about Making a Murderer Part 2, but I'm kind of hesitant to yet. I know everybody wants to talk. Well, a lot of people want to talk about it, but I also don't want to spoil it. I mean, it's very, very frustrating. I wound up binging the entire series in the span of about 10 hours, which is obviously 10 episodes, 1 hour apiece, but it was just one of those things where I just couldn't stop watching, and I was getting madder and madder, more so even than the first season. But yeah, I promised to, on a Facebook, I don't know, whatever the Facebook thing is, that the stories, the Instagram ripoff thing, that we'd reveal Dave and Creech's dirty little secret. And there's plenty of those. Don't get me wrong. Actually, I was kind of misleading. It wasn't necessarily Dave and Creech's dirty little secret. And yes, Brian, I am by myself. It's not really Dave and Creech's dirty little secret as it is a Strangeland's secret. Hey, Chastity, I miss and love you as well. But with Strangeland, we actually have a new, I guess you could say, new client. And I'm going to reveal it here. We haven't even released the official image yet, but you know of this musician. This is a very big musician. Goes by the name of Marilyn Manson. He's now one of our clients for convention appearances. So now we rep Marilyn Manson on top of Corey Taylor of Slipknot and everything, and everybody else. Obviously, we've got a fantastic client roster. But that's been our secret. I don't know if it's necessarily dirty or not, but holy crap, there's a lot of people watching right now. And like I said, once again, I apologize that you are even having to look at just the Dave and Creech Show live logo as opposed to my bearded, bushy face. But unfortunately, that's what we're going to go. It's the way technology crumbles for me today. And yeah, it's been a whirlwind weekend, guys. As you know, as I've talked about multiple times, I shot a background role in Halloween, and that scene did make the movie. So it's been a crazy weekend watching how the movie did, and obviously it's at a over 90 million worldwide for the weekend. So that's pretty impressive. I actually, I texted Dave. I was like, guess what? Now we need to change the title to the Creech and Dave Show because Halloween had a bigger opening than any of your prior films. So as it stands, Creech has the highest opening of any of the films between Dave and Creech. Brian Daniels, no. Dave, actually, we were talking about Dave coming on this one because Dave is going to be taking part in some of these live ones as well. However, the only problem is I wanted to go ahead and hammer out all the bugs of doing this live thing. And as you can tell, between not having any video, that's already one problem right there. So we're kind of dealing with that. But Dave Sheridan will be on these once I get this hammered down. But yeah, it's been a whirlwind weekend with Halloween and everything, and I've really been excited to, reveal, talk a little bit about my time on Halloween. I'm actually going to go back to some of the locations that they shot at for Fanfest and show you what it looks like when dead people aren't laying around. But, honestly, I didn't really, my tale wasn't too exciting on Halloween. I mean, other than the fact that I got to watch Jamie Lee Curtis for 3 or 4 hours play a role that I've grown up watching her. I just basically stood around. I got to set late, later at night, and stood by a house and watched police lights, and I knew there was a murder had happened. I hadn't known who was murdered, obviously, because I wasn't really close to anything going on, but I was able to watch, pretend to be a nosy neighbor for a couple of hours and watch everything, which was really cool for a second. This is my second movie. I've just had only shot a very small cameo, if you will, of Strip Club Massacre. So to have your second movie be the 10th movie in a horror franchise, especially an amazing one that I've grown up around like Halloween, is just super cool. There is a lot of people watching. I don't know why that makes me nervous. I guess that's the whole live thing. But yeah, it's been a fun weekend. We've got some great stuff coming up on Dave and Creech, as I've talked about previously on the last live pre-show we did. We're going to start doing another Facebook Live segment where we bring some of our former celebrity guests on to actually do Facebook Live with us. So basically, I'll be talking, they're going to be on, and everybody can interact and talk to them. Now, our first guest is actually one of my favorite guests and is a good friend of mine, Christopher Barry, who played, I believe the official name was Bud on The Walking Dead. He was the first savior with lines that you saw on The Walking Dead. He's also been in Spider-Man Homecoming. He lost in a fight to Spider-Man. And he's on the new USA show, The Purge. So he's still out there kicking it. And we're going to have him on, another secret that I'm going to reveal right now, we're going to have him on this Thursday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, this one won't be filmed or recorded like this, so with it being live, it's not going to be like this. We won't be delayed. So you don't have to worry about that. You'll have to deal with my ugly mug that day. But yeah, it's been, wow, there's just a lot of people on. We're 9 minutes into the show, and I see a lot of people watching. Is there anybody that wants to ask any questions, maybe about working on Halloween, or any questions about Dave and Creech, Dave Sheridan? I'm actually, when I get done with this, I'm going to see a friend perform at a drag show, and then I'm actually going to be on the phone with Dave Sheridan tonight, actually recording another show of the Dave and Creech that won't be live, but yeah, he'll be joining us on one of these very soon. Like I said, the whole reason for this episode is to do a live episode trial run. So I'm the guinea pig, of course, because Dave doesn't want to come on until it's perfect. And Brian, what's wrong with the camera? That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know if we have anybody out there that's super technical, that's better, I don't know, electronically sound than I am. I mean, the funny thing was, I did a trial run earlier in the day, and the camera worked perfectly. And then when I was getting ready to go live around 6, I was just like, let me just check one more time, and it wouldn't work. So I had to wind up resetting. I reset my computer, and I uninstalled the drivers. Basically everything that Google was telling me to do, because I didn't know how to do anything anyway. Brian, I'm not. If you invited me, would my camera work? Well, Brian, I'm not recording off my phone, is the thing. Now, if I use my phone, then yes, it would be live, but then it would just be like every other thing. I'm actually using a program through my computer. And Renee Smiley says, you just don't want to show us your smile. And yeah, it's not far from the truth. I think I'm saving everybody from having to see my smile, or as scary as that smile is. There's a reason they probably cast me in Halloween. Granted, I'm surprised I didn't get cast as one of the insane asylum inmates. So there is that. But yeah, Brian, I'm not on my phone. I will be recording from my phone on Thursday when Christopher Berry comes and we do the live chat with everybody. So there is that. So once again, if anybody's listening and wants to chat with Christopher Berry about The Walking Dead, about Salem, about Spider-Man Homecoming, about The Purge, which is currently ongoing, or even if you just want to bug him to ask him to go to a Walker Stalker Con so you can meet him, Thursday's going to be your chance, because you'll have free reign to ask him whatever you want. Just hopefully nothing too creepy, because he's the test subject here. If he works, then I'll go to some of our other former guests like Michael Cudlitz and Brandon Novak, and Dave can get Danny Trejo, and we'll see about involving them, seeing if they're available to do one of these, because that would be, I think, great for all the fans to interact. But once again, we gotta make sure that it's worth our time and that everybody's having fun. Which, if you're listening to the Dave and Creech show, you're probably not having too much fun, because it's Monday night. There's so many more fun things to be doing than actually listening to me talk. And I see that Carl Williams has joined. That guy likes sending me photos of his chest. Thankfully, he hasn't sent one in a long time, but it's still scarred in my mind. But yeah, guys. So what's going on with everybody tonight? Before we get into all this boring stuff, and then I play this pretty cool interview with James Frazier. What's been going on? Anything fun? Brian, I know you've been on vacation, but I've been sleeping, and nobody is apparently doing anything fun. Gosh, I gotta think of other stuff to talk about. How far is this podcast? We're already, we're 13 minutes into it. We're doing pretty good. And somebody commented. Carl, yeah. Renee Smiley, so you're going to talk about Making a Murderer. Well, here's the thing. I would love to talk about Making a Murderer, but is anybody going to object to me talking about it? Because, has anybody else been able to watch all of this? Because I have no problems talking about that. We can definitely talk about that right now. Spoiler alert, because now at least I said that. But, I'm frustrated about that, no lie. I've been thinking about that a lot. Okay, well, Renee's binged it. Has there been anybody else that's binged it so far? I know Brian has, but we can, sure, let's go ahead and talk. Honestly, when I watched the first season, it was frustrating, but in the end, I wasn't 100% sure about Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey's I wasn't sure about their innocence. I was like maybe 60-40 for them, but not 100%, you know. But, you know, and the main reason I wasn't 100% after the first season was because everybody, you know, obviously the way Just News is, you'll have one site that's going to be like, or like, for instance, the documentary where it's like, it's definitely pro Steven and Brendan, you know, their innocence. But then, like, you have other websites that come out, oh, well, look, they left this out, this out, this out, this out of the documentary, these pieces of evidence, and that's what caused them to get the guilty verdict. So I wasn't, you know, I was kind of 60-40 on his innocence. However, now, with the second season, you know, most of those sites that I read where they were like, well, there was this, and that, that's all been answered in this season, and it's been proven, you know, through trial and error and retesting and everything that, you know, the official story that was released and that he was convicted on does not match the factual evidence and, you know, the events of what they've done recreating it. So I am as close to certain that Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey are in fact innocent, and that's what's more frustrating. It's like, obviously Manitowoc and Wisconsin, the whole state of Wisconsin's kind of got this whole, you know, obviously they fucked up, pardon my French, and now they're just trying to cover their tracks, and they're refusing to admit they're wrong. They're like me in a sense. I mean, granted, I admit I'm wrong more than apparently Manitowoc does, but it's infuriating. You know, now Brendan Dassey's used all of his appeals, so basically he's stuck in there until and unless Kathleen Zellner can exonerate Stephen. And if Stephen gets exonerated, obviously the next step would be to then, to go and release Brendan. And upon that, you know, I have been making some moves, and which I guess goes into our whole dirty little secret thing I posted earlier. We are in talks to have one of Brendan's attorneys on the show, Nyrider. Can't remember her first name for the life of me right now, but we are in talks to have her as a guest on the show, and I'm looking forward to it because honestly, this season 2 has driven me nuts. It's been very frustrating, and the last episode is the most infuriating episode of this. And personally, if I were to review this show, honestly, I would have much preferred them to hold off on releasing the show until there was a definitive answer all around, because it's just kind of 10 episodes to catch you up in the last 2 years for there to be literally no answer. And I think that's what's most frustrating of all. And, you know, I feel for Teresa Halbach's family, but at the same point, just, you know, I feel like obviously the killer is still out there, and I honestly believe if you're going through the evidence that was displayed in the second season, I mean, it looked, in my opinion, it looks like Bobby Dassey was the killer. Between everything on the computer and all this, I would be interested in hearing who everybody out there thinks is the actual killer, or if they think that Brendan and Steven aren't innocent, if they think they are guilty. I'd be interested in finding out exactly what everybody thinks on this case, because this case, it's like the further down you go, the crazier it gets, and it's just it's pretty crazy, to be honest. And I see that Oscar Rodriguez III, Oscar's Red Hat, is on right now, and it's always a pleasure to have him on. That day planner ending up at Teresa's house in the hands of the ex-boyfriend got me. You know, Renee, it got me too. You know, and I didn't even think about that. I forgot about that until you just mentioned that. And that is very suspect that something that she had on her when she died, because obviously she wrote down plans on the go that day, to then show up at her ex-boyfriend's house is pretty suspect too. I completely forgot about that, and so that would definitely be worth, maybe it was the ex-boyfriend. Jilted ex. Hello, Chastity. I hope you are doing great. I miss you. And it's just been this whole situation. And the documentary paints a really good portrait of really three different suspects, between Barb's husband and her son Bobby, and then I forgot about the ex-boyfriend. It could even be multiple people. But the thing that stuck with me the most is the pictures that were on Bobby Dassey's computer of mutilated females who happened to be about the same size and look of Teresa, and in some ways even the same way she died, which is just, there's coincidences and then there's coincidences, and I don't think that was a coincidence at all. That definitely seems more like a research thing, and it was completely insane that they would not have brought that up at all during the case. And that's another thing. I'm not. Hey, Tanya. It's another one of the things that just completely caught me off guard. Obviously, I'm not a law person. I don't know law. I didn't study it at all. But to leave very pertinent information and evidence like that out of a case definitely seems damning to Ken Kratz, who I officially don't like. I've never met the guy. I hope to never meet him. I don't want him on my show ever. I hope to never have to be involved with that guy at all. Now, Nyrider, on the other hand, yes, we are in talks with having her on to talk about Brendan Dassey, and honestly, Carl, I hope that I spoiled the entire season for you for all those pictures you sent me of your hairy chest. And by the way, Carl, congrats on the kid, the new kid, the coming kid. And I guess I should reiterate for anybody watching. Spoiler alert: we are talking Making a Murderer Part 2. So if you have not seen that on Netflix, do not listen to this show, because I'm spoiling the hell out of it right now, just because I have to get it off my chest. And apparently some of the people watching and listening right now have to get it off their chest too. So it's I am so frustrated about this, and I know I keep saying the word frustrated, but it's literally, I texted some people right after I saw that. Carl says, "Laugh out loud, thanks, sir. My wife is going to Walker Stalker this weekend." Well, Carl, I hope your wife has a great time at Walker Stalker. Atlanta is the craziest event of the year, but I think she's going to have a great time. We're actually a little bit later going to have James Frazier, who's the CEO, the creator of Walker Stalker Con on, and he hosts the Walker Stalkers Podcast. So, and we're promoting Atlanta. So, I hope she has a great time in Atlanta, because I did Walker Stalker Atlanta in 2013 through 2016, and then of course around the country, and it's a great show. I think she'll really enjoy it. But back to season 2. So we because let's see. Renee says it's frustrating because it is scary that people in power can do things like this and get away with it. Common folks like us have no chance if we cross the wrong people. And, that's absolutely true. It's I mean, it's scary to think that if somebody wants you bad enough, like that they can definitely get you, in a sense. Like, obviously, the police weren't too fond of the Averys to begin with, and then the whole event that happened in the 80s, and him being wrongfully imprisoned for like 18 years. It's crazy that after that, obviously, the lawsuit of, I believe it was like 30-some million that he was supposed to get, and then they wind up, right after that, somehow managing to get him again. It's crazy. It's absolute, it's a little suspect to begin with, but just the fact that yeah. Tanya says, I'll see you later. I haven't been season 1 yet. Miss your face. Say hi to Lexi from Brett and I. Will do. And I will chat with you later as well, Tanya. Definitely get to watching it just so you can be as frustrated and mad as I am. And then I can have another podcast of talking with this, because I'm in the process of trying to get Dave Sheridan to watch this. And you've got to understand, with my co-host Dave, it's hard to get him to watch anything. I've been trying for 2 years to get Dave Sheridan to watch Deadpool, and so far I have failed. He just doesn't watch things. I think he saw Strip Club Massacre. I think, not 100% sure, but he hasn't seen Halloween yet. So I don't know, but well, since it's the main person who's talking, making a murder with me is going. We're about 30 minutes in. We're going to now finish up this podcast. First by wrapping up the news, the big news that I had mentioned earlier, and then we're gonna air our James Frazier interview. Now, once again, the biggest news of our dirty little secrets was we at Strangeland Oddities, which I'm the assistant director of, officially rep Marilyn Manson for convention appearances. And this Thursday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you have the chance to chat with Walking Dead actor, Spider-Man Homecoming actor, Purge actor, and good friend of mine, Christopher Barry, on a special live Dave and Creech guest chat. So it'll be me and him, and anybody who wants to talk will have the chance to chat with him. So there's that. Now, I've probably missed another thing. Obviously, Halloween came out. I was in it. It's made $90 million. I officially have a higher grossing weekend for a film than my co-host Dave Sheridan. So might have to become the Creech and Dave show. Don't know. We'll have to talk about that at another time. But yeah, I'm going to wrap this up with this interview with James Frazier of Walker Stalker Con. Listen in if you want to find out about a unfortunate new cancellation on Walker Stalker Con Atlanta, and just what cities they're coming to next year and all that good jazz. So for Dave and Creech, this is CJ Creech, and hope you enjoyed the interview, and I will chat next time with you guys.
So how have you been?
Extremely busy. Great.
Yeah, I can imagine with Atlanta right around the corner.
Oh yeah, we're in crunch time. For sure. We're there. I'm feeling it.
I can only imagine too. I mean, with this being basically the biggest reunion of pretty much any prior and current cast, that's a lot of schedules to get straight.
It is. Yeah, and when people ask like, "Oh, can you get one more guest?" or if somebody were to cancel, like Alexandra Breckenridge, we just got word that she's got this film now, so she has to cancel like the next 3 conventions with us. Well, people will ask, can you replace her? And it's just it's impossible at this point because, we'd have to negotiate a contract. We'd have to then arrange all the travel and transportation and lodging, and then make sure we've got a banner for them, and it's too late in the game for us to be able to replace anybody at this point. But so who we have is who we have now. That is for sure.
It's still a very impressive lineup. I mean, I can't. I mean, obviously, people on the internet complain because they may not have this person or that person, but I mean, the sheer roster is one of the most impressive I've seen, especially catering to one brand of show.
Oh, there's nothing else like it. There's not another show and I'm saying like another television show does a reunion of the number of people that we do at an event. Even like these Star Wars or Star Trek ones, they might have 10, 20 tops, but to have 60, it's just not done. So yeah, it's definitely unique in that sense. And you know what? In a good way, we've spoiled people, right? So they have a high level of expectation. Well, we have that too. I mean, we realize every year we kind of got to top it. And so we have very high expectations for ourselves, for sure, to make sure that, we're putting on a quality show that everybody's going to love.
Speaking of topping it, once again, you have done it again this year. And I think looking toward Atlanta next year and obviously all the other conventions, it's going to be interesting to see what you guys come up with.
Well, I think, I do know that next year we'll go back to the kind of the secondary shows lineup. This year it was just kind of a goal. I don't know why we decided to do it this year with having as many as we did from The Walking Dead, but next year we'll go back to, maybe 30 to 40 Walking Dead actors and then 10 to 20-ish, from other TV shows or other films. So no, we're definitely, we've definitely got a plan for next year already, what we want to do with Atlanta and our other conventions as well.
Yeah. I can't remember exactly, but I believe I may have been this year, but I believe isn't there a new city next year as well?
Yeah, we're going to Phoenix next year, which is new, right in January, and then we'll head to Cleveland also in August of next year.
That's awesome. So yeah, you're still spreading around, and then obviously London is seemingly. I mean, I've never went to one of the London ones, but it seems like it's getting right up there with Atlanta in terms of sheer size and scope.
Yeah, I mean, they're huge fans, and because of London's location, we get a lot from Ireland and France, so it brings in a big draw. It's a big draw to the international community, and then of course Germany too is continuing to grow as well.
Oh yeah, so you are going back to Germany next year?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Yeah. I heard good things about that, and and you're also continuing the co-branding of the events too. I saw there's a couple that are going to be the Walker Stalkers and Heroes and Villains Fanfest.
Sure. Well, I think the long-term goal is that we continue to keep those two events merged in most cities where we can. It's easier on my team, which is a big thing. It's just, we only have to go to the city one time instead of two times. But it also gives people the opportunity to be exposed to both events. So they may not necessarily be a Walking Dead fan, but they might be a horror fan, and there's enough of it at most conventions for them to get a little taste of that. So it gives people exposure to both brands and helps continue to grow the brand itself.
Like you're saying, for somebody who may like The Walking Dead a little bit, but then they may be more into something like Gotham or whatever, they have additional options.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that's what it is. And to me, it's also value because we didn't double the ticket price or anything like that. The one ticket price gets you into both. So for people that were going to both events, which is a good chunk of the folks, it gives them real value. They're only having to, spend their money one time, traveling to the same place, and helps them, maybe get another autograph or something that they couldn't have gotten otherwise if they would have, gone to both events separately.
I do also want to talk Fanfest because it's been amazing this year to watch the last time we talked, it was just starting the Fanfest site, and now to see like advertisements for maybe certain TV shows are now quoting Fanfest in it. It's amazing to see how far the websites came.
Yeah, it's the little engine right now. It's chugging right along, and eventually I would anticipate that it's a big entertainment site that does continue to gain traction. We got a great team of writers that do really quality stuff. Really proud of the material that they put on our sites each day. And I think we really are, especially in this last 6 months since not even 6 months, since San Diego Comic-Con. A lot of the networks and production companies have stood up and paid attention to us, that we are a legitimate site, and that we have sizable traffic now, and that our writings matter. And I still think what the best thing about FanFest that's different than comicbook.com or entertainmentweekly.com is that everybody that's writing for fanfest.com is that they're a fan. So they are writing on topics that they love. They're writing about shows that they love. So they're typically writing from a more positive perspective. Very rarely will you ever see anything get a negative review or something being bashed. It just doesn't happen because it's coming from a true fan's perspective who probably loves what they're writing about.
Very true. Yeah. I've written a couple of maybe more than a couple articles for the website, and it's always definitely something I love to do because it's, you pick your own topics, and then you go from there, and you get to research things and find out things about stuff that even I didn't know. Like, doing like on a 10-year ago this movie came out piece, and then you're like finding out all sorts of information you didn't know about projects you loved and sharing that with everybody else.
Well, and I think one of the neat things too is it continues to kind of capture like the heart of everything that we do, and that it really, again, it's from a fan perspective, but so much of Walker Stalker and then Heroes and Villains and now FanFest, it's done by people doing it because they enjoy it and they enjoy what they're being part of. And, we're still a very small site in terms of I think we have actually 2 employees for the website. So it's not big in that sense yet, where because it's not a money maker yet. It's actually a money loser. But that there's the long-term goal of it being able to hire more people. But really, one of the best parts for me is it gives people an outlet to write with, and there's a lot of young people who write for us, and so it gives them something for their resume to say that they write for us. And I think that's wonderful, because if that can help them get launched into a job or an internship or something that they're wanting to do within the industry, and we can help them by giving them an outlet to put their work up at, I think that's a great thing.
And I think that's really not even just the FanFest website, but I mean, seemingly the convention and Walker Stalkers, the podcast, and everything as a whole has always kind of had that. I mean, personally speaking, 4 years ago today, I was doing an interview with Jeffrey DeMunn at Walker Stalker Atlanta 2014, and that pretty much started everything. Like, I mean, the first event I ever got booked for press was at Walker Stalker 2014. So, wow. Everything that I've been able to be lucky enough to accomplish has been all thanks to you and Eric and Michael Guthus, who was the press guy at the time. So yeah, I mean, you've been helping careers out for years now.
Well, I mean, it's great to see people like yourself or Dave Solo that can take what they've done with us and turn that into things of their own. And just the number of people that podcast now and other things. It's really, really cool to see. It's just great to watch. To everybody just have fun. I mean, that's really what it is. I just did this like hour-long Facebook Live session, and I've said it in there, and I'll say it again, and I've saying it for years. That's the best part of the weekend, is just keep seeing people have just a great time. And if we can keep doing that and letting people have these moments, we'll keep doing it, because that's what makes it worth it. Because our butts will be kicked come Sunday night. I mean, physically, mentally, we will be exhausted, but just those moments where people, walk away in just tears of joy, or, it's just, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. And it happens at all of our events, but just there's some kind of magic in Atlanta that happens every year.
I definitely agree. Yeah, for sure. And speaking of the podcast, I know Walker Stalkers Podcast will be wrapping up very shortly on episode 200. I believe it's 4 episodes away.
Yep.
And
yep.
Yeah, that's been quite an amazing run for you as well. So congratulations.
Well, thank you. It's very bittersweet for sure to decide. I've really enjoyed having Dave and Nick and even Daniel Thomas May over the course of the last few years since Eric left. But I started that podcast with Eric, and there was just something special about doing that with him. And when he left, the podcast was not very good for a while because I didn't really know how to do it on my own, and I didn't know how to then work with somebody else because I kind of had to become I always say, like, there's the color commenter, and then there's the play-by-play guy, and Eric was the play-by-play guy, and I was the one who was, blurting in with the commentary, and then to have to flip that and become kind of more of the lead, it was a position I wasn't necessarily comfortable with, but learned to do over the years, and I think I've become better at it, but probably never quite as good as Eric was. But it was just, there was something special about two guys who were best friends getting together to talk about a show that they loved. And I think was the heart of the podcast, and I've enjoyed it still. And, but I just feel like, it's time. I felt that way last year and almost mid last year. But when I found out that Andy was leaving, and then, it would kind of correspond with a 200 podcast, potentially, I felt like, what, sometimes some things aren't just coincidence. And so, we'll be wrapping it up here in a few weeks, and got some great guests to kind of come back on for the last few ones. And then also, really to put a bow on it. Eric will come back for the final podcast, and we'll have some very old guests we haven't talked to in a really long time come back on and wrap it up.
That sounds like that's going to be definitely bring your tissues for that episode for sure.
It probably will. That's for sure.
I think it's great too. I noticed that Greg Nicotero was going to be one of the guests on the final one, and I know he was actually going back to the beginning of the podcast, the first actual celebrity interview you guys had on the show.
He was. He's been a huge supporter of not only the podcast but the conventions, and so it wouldn't be appropriate to do it and not end it with Andy. With Greg on the podcast. Of course, I'd love to have Andy too. I don't know if that would happen, but knowing I've got Greg and we'll have a couple of the other guys on in the coming, little surprises here and there over the next couple of weeks. But really on that final one, we'll have a lot of I think, little calls mixed in for the whole time along with Greg.
Yeah, and then also I know another thing that's been I know that's also been a treat for the fans is I know if you sign up for the shows that I believe it's up to 100 people that they get a free weekend pass to like a future Walker Stalker as well. So it's like,
yep. Yeah,
it's an extra added incentive.
Yeah, and that's just really really just to say thank you for everybody that's been a part of it for all these years, and it's an easy thank you for me. It's just something I can do that not only do they get the benefit of being part of the podcast and asking questions on the podcast, but they get the benefit of the pass as well. So it's just a nice thank you that I can give back to them for listening for all these years.
Sure, yeah, and I mean it's definitely been a crazy couple of years to start out from two guys who love the show, going down to visit the set of the show to actually starting a podcast and then starting a convention and then actually getting to be on the show. It's like it's one of those whirlwind dream come true type scenarios. So I think it's been pretty awesome to watch.
Yeah, it is a dream come true, and I wish I had more time to think about it, because when I do, when I tell the story to somebody, it's one of those things where people are blown away by it. Just that, all the things that have happened, and some of it's dumb luck, some of it's, we were prepared for it, but it's definitely, without a doubt, been a real blessing, and I'm just thankful to God for what He's done in my life and for where He's put me with all this.
Very true. And also, now you actually, I know the documentary was almost already done. It's been streamed on the Fanfest YouTube, but now you've also got a definitive ending, so to speak.
Well, I think there's a lot left to the story, right? I mean, the podcast is over, but Walker Stalker isn't, and I think we'll be moving to a video platform after after the 200th podcast. We'll be moving over to a live Facebook Live format and taking calls and answering questions. So I think that'll be really cool as well, and it's just a more up-to-date, I guess, more technically advanced way I can interact with people than what we've been doing with the podcast, which is, a lot of people don't know how to participate in a podcast or where to find one. So that'll be something different then.
Yeah. I mean, that'll definitely be a lot easier. They just have to, open one app and then they can start commenting away.
Right. Exactly.
Well, I do want to thank you for coming on the show. Is there any other events you'd like to promote coming up? Because I know Atlanta's next weekend. Obviously, any channels. I know you don't do Twitter anymore. Twitter's really, really, really bad. But yeah, I know you're still on Instagram, right?
I am. You know what? No, there's nothing that I want to plug. I just want to say, thank you, CJ, and everybody that continues to be part of this Walker Stalker family. It's something special, and I hope not for a minute that anybody ever really takes it for granted. I know there are a lot of people, in the early days, I think everybody was grateful for what we certainly were accomplishing. There certainly seems there's a little bit more entitlement out there now as we've gotten older, but I would hope that everybody would remember those early days and just how unique this opportunity was, not only with The Walking Dead, but really with any show. And to get to still do this and to have them still come, and hopefully to get to do this for decades to come as well. I just want to remind everybody that we should be grateful to them that they want to do this and care that much with their fans, but also just be thankful to everybody again that they do want to be a part of it. So thank you, CJ, and thank you anybody else who's listening.
And once again, that'll be thank you to James Frazier for being our guest tonight on the first ever Dave and Creech show live. This is CJ Creech, obviously, signing off. And it's been a pretty good show, I think, guys, for a test run. And look forward to doing this again more in the future. Obviously, Dave Sheridan will be joining us in the next couple of times we try this. Once again, this was a trial and error episode, as I documented at the beginning of the podcast. But I do want to thank everybody who's I watched coming on the show during the podcast, and those who commented and chatted and everything. It was pretty fun. Look to bring it more to you in the future live, as opposed to just these taped releases. And just a quick little reminder: this Thursday, i.e. 3 days from now, if you want to chat with The Walking Dead / Spider-Man Homecoming / The Purge's Christopher Barry, we are doing another live thing at, I believe it is 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You'll see me post about it some more in the next couple of days, but here's your chance to, 'cause one of the things that I've always loved about this podcast is giving fans the opportunity to just ask questions and, eventually have them answered by the guest, but he'll be with us live, so everything will be answered to you in real time this Thursday. So it's the first time we've ever done this, really, other than if you count the Periscope days, which was still kind of but for Facebook Live, it's the first time that we're doing it. So I hope to catch as many of you out there as possible on Thursday. And until next time, from Dave Sheridan, who could not be here, to myself, I want to thank you again for taking some time out of your day to just to be here with us on the Dave and Creech Show.